So I bought this amp for repairs. It's a ENGL Fireball 60 watt. The fault was no sound, and the 3 preamp tubes out of 4 would not light up at all, even though the power amp tubes would light up. So I had a look at the schematic, and this is what I figured. So on the schematic, you can see that this is the power transformer, and it supplies electricity to 3 tubes, 3 preamp tubes, one of the preamp tube being supplied by another line. So I saw online someone saying that those 4 diodes and 2 capacitors could be the issue here. And by the way, the capacitors value on this schematic are not the ones that you find inside the amp. At least it was the case for me. The 4 diodes, those were the right ones, but the capacitors, it wasn't the same value. Some people said that the schematics from ENGL were not completely accurate to prevent people from trying to reproduce one from the schematic. So in this specific part, I can testify it's accurate, but otherwise, yes, that's where the fault very probably lied, when there are 3 preamp tubes which are not lighting up. In order to remove the PCB, I have to take off the shielding of the transformer, which is below, because it's soldered directly to the PCB on the other side. So I have to remove the 4 screws here around, and the 4 screws on the top, and remove all the tubes. So this is what it looks like when it's opened. The fault was here between the 2 sockets of the preamp tubes. Here are 4 diodes, and one of them has gone, and here the 2 capacitors, which all this does a rectifier system to supply the 4 tubes, preamp tube, and this is kind of amp and preamp tube with high voltage. Be careful of those capacitors. You need to drain them before. If you don't know how to do it, please look it up, because it's potentially very, very dangerous. At last I managed to desolder all the diodes and the capacitors. It took me kind of 4 or 5 hours just to manage to get the little pieces of metal out of the PCB. It's quite difficult. I needed to change my iron to take a better quality iron than the basic one I have, even though the basic one has a temperature control. The other one is a Weller, and after reviewing some posts online, everyone was saying, well, Weller has a better soldering iron, and at last I managed to remove the last leg of a diode that was still stuck in the PCB. So now I'll be able to resolder new diodes, and the capacitors were okay, but after checking them, they were kind of aging, so might as well buy a new pair of capacitors, which will be going here and here, remove the glue, and do it as good as I can. Hopefully it will work again, but very tricky. I desoldered these 2 wires, which are, I guess, the LEDs which light up the power tubes, and flipping over the board, I'll show you. taking the transformer, which is quite heavy. I had to take everything apart. Whoa. There we are. And this little piece of wood there enables me to put the rest of the transformer on it, as you can see here. So I can work on both sides of the board, because it's very tricky on this side as well. As you can see, I fought a lot to try and remove these 4 joints here, and these are the capacitors. So now all I need to do is solder it back in, put everything back together and see if it works. Fingers crossed. Everything is back in place now. Time to reassemble. So with all the repairs done now, everything works fine. The 3 preamp tubes light up, sound comes out. Quite nice amp, so pretty cool. I'm very happy. Good luck with your repair.